So I have a PSA for Tangaged. Heather Lee Cameron, I was on a call with her recently. To give you all an idea of what it's like to be on call with Heather Lee Cameron, it's usually her dominating the conversation, talking about herself or whatever she wants to talk about. And then when people aren't talking about what she wants to talk about, she'll talk over everybody and speak specifically to one person who's also on the call, who she believes will entertain her bullshit the most. And then when people tell her to shut up and stop interrupting people and changing the subject, she's like, oh, well, I'm autistic, so I don't know. But yeah, that's basically Heather on a Skype call for you. So tonight, when I joined the call, she was talking about how she was so grief stricken because it was the day after the anniversary of the death of Matt 64. And she was talking about how she didn't know how she was going to function today, and she was just so overwhelmed with grief. And I'm like, sis, you did not know this like, I voiced my skepticism immediately because I know what grief is like. And by the way, she was calling him Matt 64 the whole time. Like, she's allegedly like his close friend, but she kept calling him Matt 64. Like, sis, his name is Matt. Um, but she called me a prick and a jackass. And I'm like, I mean, that's usually what she does. She like never has a valid argument. She just always thinks that people are attacking her. But I'm just like, sis, you did not know Matt 64 that well. And when I was saying that, she was like, well, my dad died. Like, I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with it? Like, that doesn't prove that you're grief stricken about Matt 64, that you know what it's like to feel grief. Because that sounds like something a sociopath would do. Like, I have grief programmed in me. I am trained for this. I am grief stricken. Like, I know what grief is. Okay? And it's not that. It's not remembering someone who you played an org with and being like, oh yeah, they passed away yesterday. Let me make a tribute blog or something. I don't know. That's not grief, okay? And you had the audacity to say that I didn't know, I had never had anyone in my life who died. Like, what's the actual odds of someone not having anyone in their life who's passed away? Like, obviously, I've had people in my life who've passed away. And my emotions have ranged from, like, stoic melancholy to literally, like, convulsing in tears. Like, like, my eyes are swollen, like, spit, snot, tears in 3 different directions on my eyes. Like, I know what it's like to be in grieving, okay? I know what it's like. And it's not what you were doing, Heather. It's just not. And like, I just couldn't help but make fun of you because it was clearly bullshit. It was a crock of bullshit. And maybe I was starting to think I went too far because you were like crying. I was like laughing because I was like, is she serious right now? Is she actually serious? Did she actually have a close relationship with Matt 64, who she played one org with once, and I like who, and she probably didn't even last long enough to where she would have actually talked in depth with Matt 64 about strategy. I don't even know what the org was, but I know that if someone I knew from an org passed away, when it happens, I would be like, wow, I would be like in shock, like, wow, I knew this person and they passed away, and it obviously wouldn't be from natural causes. Like, it would be shocking and disturbing. But a year later, I don't think I would be compelled to make a tribute blog about it, much less when it actually happened, to be quite frank with you. Maybe that makes me insensitive, maybe I am a jackass, but that's not the point, because what I can tell you that I am is a truther. And I like the truth, and I don't like lies. Lies which Heather Lee Cameron herself feels the need that she has to spew to get attention on Tangage. And she said, I told her, like, when I was considering maybe I'm going too far, I was like, Heather, go on cam, because I want to see you crying. Like, I want to see your tears. Not like I want her to cry, but I want to see that she's actually crying, because it sounded more like a pity, like whine. It was just like the worst excuse for crying I had ever heard. And so I couldn't help but laugh and make myself seem like even more of an asshole. And then when she came on camera, reluctantly, by the way, she didn't want to at first, but I was like, you literally are not, like, actually crying unless I see you're actually crying. And when she came on cam, no tears. No tears. She just went up to the camera like, look, see my tears. See right there? She's the pastiest ass bitch in fucking Canada, okay? If she were crying, she would be like, it would be like red streaks over her fucking face, and she wouldn't even be able to open her eyes. Her face was dry as per usual. There were no tears. And when I was like, I literally cackled because she wasn't crying, and she started laughing too. She literally cracked a smile and was like, silly Zolky. Like, you literally got caught red-handed. You are obviously not upset about Matt64 dying. And so she just called me a prick again, an asshole, and left the call. And like 30 minutes goes by, and she's like passive-aggressively, like, talking about how she hates me or whatever in the chat, like jumping in and out and like calling me an insensitive dick asshole. And then when she comes back on after saying that she hates me for poking fun at her Matt64 blog, which, by the way, I was completely and utterly shocked that she hadn't deleted it, because she still is like entranced in her own bullshit. When she comes back on call for the final time, she says that I'm fat, which is like the most laughable thing. Heather Lee Cameron, of all people, saying I'm fat. She was calling me fat, insulting me, kicking me off the call. And to top it all off, the cherry on the cake or whatever, she told me to go drown because she hated me so much. And she wanted me to burn in hell. Like, honey, you're literally banned from 10 Gauge from threatening to kill people and wishing death upon people. And you are here like, I tell you all the time, Heather, stop, like, wishing death upon people, even if you're joking. It's probably the worst fucking joke I've ever heard. Wishing death upon people. Like, that's actually boring now. Like, you've made it boring. I've heard it so much from you. But I really feel like you thought you wanted me to die. And I feel like an empathetic person wouldn't say those things. You're not an empathetic person. You don't care about Matt64. You care about yourself. You want people to know that you knew someone who died. You want a top blog. You're drunk with all these top blogs you've been getting recently on the blogs page. And you're like, you know what? Let me throw Matt64's dead body under the bus because I want another fucking top blog. Because when you were on call, even when you were arguing with me, you just had to, like, stop what you were saying when someone would come on call. You had to tell them and let them know that you made a blog about Matt64 passing away, and that they had to go see it, and that was a triumphant victory, like, for dead people all over the world. Like, honey, it's not like your master, or like it's not your crowning achievement, this Matt64 blog, like you think it is. Okay? It's actually really fucking insensitive, and that's coming from one of the most insensitive people on 10 Gauge. Like, it's actually disgusting. It's disgusting, I would say. Disgusting that you're show ponying someone's death for your own benefit so you can get attention, as you usually do. And, you know, you have this tendency to blame everything you do and say on your autism. And I think that because of that, you think that you can just get away with anything that you're saying, and the things that you're saying are just out of body. It's not you. It's your autism, and you can just say all these things. For, like, coming from someone on the spectrum, I know how to have emotions. Like, it's not like a skill. Like, I just have emotions naturally, I should say. It's not a learned activity to have emotions. It's not that hard to show your emotions when you're upset, and it's not that hard to feel empathy for other people, even though I typically am admittedly selfish. But I do have empathy for other people. You do not. And since you have the tendency to diagnose yourself with a bunch of disorders that you don't have, apparently you're diagnosed with ADHD and autism, but you also diagnosed yourself with PTSD and a bunch of allergies and shit. Like, you just have a whole plethora of things wrong with you, apparently. But since you like to self-diagnose so much, let me give you another diagnosis, sis. You are a sociopath. You do not care about anyone or anything. You're a narcissist. You are constantly looking at yourself and you can't see anything that's around you but what's going on with you. So, with that said, I wanted everyone to know that Heather wished death upon me and that she's crazy. And you should all watch out, because if you pass away, she'll become your best friend too.